Here at Empower Field at Mile High, I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Standing next to our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. The Broncos have clinched the #1 seed in the AFC and now have home field advantage up until Super Bowl 60, which is in Santa Clara. A lot of emotions here. Broncos country was loud all game. I mean, what a huge accomplishment for this team.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with that. The crowd was fantastic. Sean Payton said after the game how absolutely incredible the atmosphere was. Broncos country played a big role in this afternoon's win. You saw it with the false starts, the timeouts that were called by the Chargers. The Broncos fan base made an impact on this game, and now they'll have a chance to do that for hopefully 2 postseason games, as the Broncos will host a divisional round game in a couple of weeks. They get that first round bye. They get to skip around in the playoffs, which Sean Payton has mentioned several times. It basically takes out an event that you have to get through in a day that maybe you're not at your best or an opponent is at their best. You get to skip one of those, obviously get to rest up and get that home field advantage. And one of the things that the guys talked about post-game was just how far this team has come, really, since Sean Payton got here in 2023. And you go 8-9, then you go 10-7 to make the playoffs, and now another year later, you're the #1 seed in the AFC, tie the most wins in franchise history in a single season. Bo Nix sets the franchise record for wins by a quarterback in a single season, and you're continuing to kind of take steps on that path toward your ultimate goal.
The Broncos are 8-1 here at home, and a lot of the guys did credit the fans. Riley Moss saying they don't know how much of an impact that they have and how we feed off of that. It's interesting because you go in the locker room and a lot of guys were celebrating, but it also seemed business as usual. They have their sights set on something bigger. Head coach Sean Payton laid out the goals very clear. Win the division, best seeding possible, and step 3 is winning that Super Bowl. What was his message?
Yeah, I think, one, it is still that, right, that the job is not finished. The kind of the chase, if you will, for that third goal begins in a couple of weeks. But one thing he did mention was that it's a pleasure to get to share this with these guys, and that especially the guys that have never experienced this before. And Sean Payton's been the #1 seed before in his career. He becomes just the 5th coach in NFL history to lead 2 different organizations to a #1 seed. So he's experienced this success. He's won a Super Bowl. Obviously, he would be the first coach to ever win a Super Bowl with 2 different organizations. So there's that goal to chase. But it's sharing it with guys like Cortland Sutton, Garrett Bowles, who have not been in this position, who have been through some tough years and are now getting a step closer. That's one of the things that matters. And he kind of went on this extended talking point about what it's like to be in the Super Bowl and how it's better than you could even possibly imagine. And he also said that now there's kind of that light that you can see, right? And you're 2 home games away from getting to Super Bowl 60, from getting back to, think all the way back to joint practice, right? When the Broncos said, hey, we want to be back here. You're now 2 home games away. And I think that, well, Evan Ingram, for example, said you still got to focus on the steps and you can't overlook anything. But the fact that this is now within striking distance and you're just 2 home games away, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, Talanoa Hufanga was asked about that statement in training camp and said, when head coach Sean Payton said that you guys have a chance to win a Super Bowl, when did you start believing it? And he said, the moment he said it. That confidence really comes down from this team, and they really want to play the best that they can on the field. And I think a big emphasis this week were the takeaways, and that's exactly what they did. This defense came out and showed out.
Yeah, and they almost set a season high in takeaways, ended up being tied for the most they had this year with 2. Jaquan McMillan's pick 6 really set the tone. It was the game-changing play this afternoon. Nick Bonito had to strip sack his 2nd of the year, and the Broncos also tie their best turnover differential of the year as they don't turn it over on offense. And it seems like a small thing, a pick here, a strip sack here, but it makes the difference in the playoffs. And Sean Payton told us earlier this week, there's only been 1 team in the last 25 years with a negative turnover differential in the postseason that has gone on to win. And so it's been a big emphasis. I think it was Nick Bonito who said they showed videos this week in the team meeting of turnovers to really emphasize that, the importance of that to this team. Sean Payton even said that he said, you know, maybe we're emphasizing the wrong thing. It's not turnovers. Let's try to score off a turnover, and J-Mac does just that. But it's such an important and kind of game-changing sort of thing. And then defensively in general, they were just spectacular. I believe 7 punts that they forced, 2 turnovers on downs, really held Trey Lance in check, 4 sacks. They were all over the place and hold them to just 3 points. And I don't care who you're playing. When you hold a team to just 3 points, that's pretty impressive. And the defense was a big reason that the Broncos won and clinched tonight.
Yeah, the Broncos definitely wanted to come out and make a statement, win that defense, and the way that they've been able to play all season long. Cortland Sutton, really credit to them, the fact that they have just been impressed, and this is what they do. When you look at the offense, what did you see from today?
Yeah, I think obviously put together 4 field goal drives, and I think Bo Nix and Sean Payton both said it well. after the game that they've got to be better, and especially in the red zone. That was one area where if you just turn a couple of those trips from field goals to touchdowns in the red zone, now you're talking about possibly scoring, high 20s, 30 points, and it's a different sort of day. But we heard Sean Payton say that the guys need to be better, and they'll focus on that and improve and be ready to go when they come back in a couple of weeks. But he also said it makes it a little bit easier to kind of stomach a performance where you don't score a touchdown when you walk away with the number 1 seed.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton joked and said that they really worked Will Lutz today, but that's something you have to do sometimes. Sometimes your special teams have to come in and make a play. So when you look at just quickly down the road, the Broncos, they were very excited to say that they can sit back and watch the wild card route and see kind of what happens there. A lot of scenarios that can play out, but how much are you looking forward to being back here for the divisional round?
Yeah, it'll be incredible. It'll be, I'm sure, what today was like, but times 10, hopefully. And it'll be the first postseason game here since the AFC Championship game that put the Broncos in Super Bowl 50. I'm sure it'll be electric. 4 different teams, really 5 as we're recording this. You can play the AFC North champ, then it's either the Chargers, Bills, or Texans that come here. So you kind of know who you could play, but you won't know for sure until next weekend. What we do know is it sounds like the Broncos will practice Friday and Saturday, according to Sean Payton, and it'll be a little bit different than a normal bye week. They'll still get locked in, ready to go, and then hopefully you get another win here in a couple weeks and take that next step.
Well, going into this game, the Broncos had notched that number 1 seed 8 times in franchise history. With 6 of those 8 times, they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Once again, I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Thanks to our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. We appreciate you guys listening to the Instant Analysis, and for all the latest, make sure you guys visit DenverBroncos.com.